On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Brinn Holschbach to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. At 13 years old, Brinn lost her father to suicide, a tragedy that left a deep void, grief, and anxiety. Diagnosed with Generalized Anxiety Disorder in high school, Brinn found strength through her support system and self-awareness. She's turning pain into purpose by sharing her story. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are or whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at tdecora8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook at Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or like button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you like what you heard. If there's a topic or you know someone who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. This is where we get into the episode guest and intro. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Brinn?
Correct.
Correct. Unless you're in my house. I don't need the internet. I don't need Alexa. I don't need Google. I've got my wife, and she's always right. Researchers estimate that the number of children in the United States, the great US of A, annually who experience their parents' suicide ranges from 7,000 to as high as 30,000 people. Kids, that's a lot. These children's survivors experience more complicated grief compared to children bereaved by a parent's non-suicidal death. Today, I welcome Brinn Holschbach to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Born and raised in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, Brinn went to Lincoln High School in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and is a proud ship where she was involved in a ton of activities. After high school, Brinn would take her talents to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she would earn a degree in psychology with a minor in criminal justice. Currently, she is pursuing a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. Try to say that 5 times as fast as you can, from Adler Graduate School. After her college days are over, which will be in probably another year and a half or 2, she hopes to get her LPC. That's the Licensed Professional Counseling License, and hopes to one day own her own practice. Today, I'm glad you could join us. Brinn Holschbach, what is up?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me in today.
Yes.
It's definitely a unique experience. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here and talk about my story and help others. And
we had a chance to meet at a conference in Oshkosh in that Fox Valley area, but we met there. And you had we talked off air a little bit. I think it takes some guts to be able to come up and talk to somebody about something such as anxiety. And that's why I was at the conference as the keynote speaker, and you came up afterward and to talk to a complete stranger. But I think knowing you and knowing how things work, you probably wanted to ask some questions about the things I did to help me out, because you're just an inquisitive person. Correct?
Yeah. And you sharing your story in front of a whole entire room of people was so amazing to me. That you overcame what you have overcome and were able to do that. That in itself is inspiring for me. Yeah,
that's kind of why I didn't do that at the beginning. I did it because I was advised to, as part of my recovery and mental and physical health. Telling my story and what had happened was initially hard to do, which is why I give you a little pat on the back for doing what you're doing today. And I was told that if you start to talk about some of the things you went through, the more you talk about them, the easier they get to talk about and then certainly deal with. And then I did that a few times and then also started to understand that I'm helping other people. And then we met at another conference in Green Bay, and you and I sat down for lunch, and you told me a fascinating story about how you grew up, and yeah, it touched me a little bit. And the reason it did is because I had that experience of losing a friend a couple weeks before that. So I thought, I need to get you on because you might help me, and then you might help some of these other people that have that void in their life at school. So how was your trip from Manitowoc?
It was fine. I don't take that 2-hour drive as often anymore as I used to. I came home a lot on the weekends when I went here to Madison. But yeah, it was a nice drive. I like turning on my podcast and driving.
And I made the joke that you must have a lead foot like most young people.
Yes, you'd probably be correct.
Spring is right around the corner. What are you looking forward to this spring?
Yeah, I don't have any major plans, but I can't stand the winter, the cold. So I'm thrilled just to have warmer weather. That's all I ask for.
So actually we'll talk about this in a little bit. Growing up where you grew up, there's a lot of stuff to do over there on the lake. Well, this weekend is the Mifflin Street Block Party, and that gets a lot of run in the Madison area. You're not going to go though?
No, I think my days of doing that are over. I had my time, and I'm not really interested in it anymore.
In relationship to Mifflin Street, because I had my two sons lived in around that area, and I should remember this, but I think they both lived on Mifflin. Where did you live? Were you on Mifflin, close to Mifflin?
No, my senior year, I was on more of the west side.
Okay. Landmarks. Give me some landmarks.
Camp Randall.
Oh, you were way over there.
Over there.
Okay.
So, yes, there was a lot of walking, a lot of bus rides.
Football season had to be fun, though.
We actually never went to a game, no.
Really?
No.
And that's okay.
Yes, but I also regret it, I think.
Well, that's the nice thing about being an alum now.
Yeah.
You can probably have some perks if they send you some stuff. Would you like to donate? Would you also like to maybe have some tickets?
Yes.
So
yeah, I'm sure I'll have my chance.
Yeah, I would encourage it. They're kind of fun. You and I met first at a conference in the fall, and then we met again a little bit later in the fall doing coalition work. Your coalition is very similar to the coalition that I do my day job in, which is substance prevention and awareness, and then also sprinkle in some mental health and some other things. What did you like about coalition work? Because you're not doing that anymore.
Correct. It was so new to me. It was my first an internship out of college, and then I was hired on. It was just very new. I've never worked in that type of realm before, but I really, really liked the part of involving ourselves with the community. Like when we would go and do presentations, or, like our Narcan vending machine, public health vending machine that just got released a few weeks ago here. Like, that's super exciting, and knowing we're doing things for the community is probably my favorite part. Yeah,
sometimes and we'll get into why you're on the episode today, when people have something that has happened that qualifies them for a job, like helping people out maybe in the substance prevention and awareness, they come with some experiences that tend to push them that way. And after I heard your story, I thought, is Brinn involved in coalition work because of her path? And you're telling me that you just kind of maybe got an internship, or somebody said, hey, maybe you would be a good fit. How did that come about then?
Well, originally when I saw the internship position as substance use prevention, that immediately, I was interested, because I have seen substance use around me in my close family. That is something that now I feel strongly about because of what I've witnessed, and pushes me even further to go beyond just my own family and, in a larger aspect into the community.
Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor, so give me a second here. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's an escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook?
Yes.
Yes. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. People keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Most communities in the Dane County area can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. I usually do a drum roll here. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I have not.
You have not, which we talked about. So next time you come to the area, I owe you some pizza.
Yes.
They've got some great pizza and other things, so you don't have to eat the pizza, but you can. I would encourage it.
Sounds good.
On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. So we'll get into Brinn's history, how she grew up, where she grew up, what happened to get her on the podcast. And then in segment 2, if we take a little break, we continue to talk about what happened and then get into what it's like now. And we discuss Brinn's 5 suggestions for thriving. So segment 1, you grew up in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. What was life like growing up for you in Manitowoc on Lake Michigan?
Yeah, so surprisingly for living on the lake, we don't go to the beach often. Lake Michigan's very cold all year round. During my childhood, we spent a lot of time at our cottage, about 40 minutes west of Appleton on a lake. That was where a lot of my weekends were spent during the summer as a child.
So you said west of Appleton?
Correct. That was really fun. That's where a lot of my fondest memories are as a child. Learned how to swim there.
Did you guys have did you have all the toys?
Yeah, we had a boat, jet ski. We went tubing. My cousin and I. She's about a year or 2 older than me, so we were really close when we were younger. Besides that, then I'd go back on a Sunday and go back to school on a Monday.
Tell our listeners about your family growing up. You did have a grandma and grandpa that were kind of involved. Mm-hmm. Let's probably start with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Growing up.
So I'm an only child. It's just my mom, dad, and I. Us 3 spent a lot of time together. Did a lot, like going to the cottage on the weekend. It is my paternal grandparents' cottage, but we would all spend time there.
Sure.
Yeah, we all did a lot of fun things. My dad especially was very outgoing and adventurous, so he was kind of the more
opposite you a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. He was always a little more
rambunctious.
Yes. Yeah, I just remember my childhood with my parents being a lot of fun, a lot of home-cooked meals together. My dad would grill out a lot. Anything
about your current life? Friends, pets? I know you said you're going to be in Janesville this weekend with a friend of yours. Go ahead and I'll let you talk.
My 2 absolute best friends in the world. One lives in Janesville now because we all met in Madison. Okay. And my other moved to Arizona for law school. So we don't see her as often. But
Arizona, I'd be seeing her every other month.
I know. I know, right?
Just me, though.
I know, especially during winter. Otherwise, in town in Manitowoc, I live with my boyfriend, and we have 2 baby kittens.
Oh, baby kittens.
Well, I guess they're not so baby anymore. They're 6 months, but...
And they hit the box when they need to, and they make sure they get in the box when they need to?
Yeah, everything. They're sassy, but they're babies, so what do you expect?
Are they siblings? Were they siblings or brother and sister?
No, now they're brothers, but they were not at the shelter.
They weren't, okay. Separate dudes from separate families.
Yep.
Manitowoc Lincoln High School, you are a proud ship. You were in a ton of extracurricular activities. What are you most proud of from high school?
Yeah, probably just how hard I pushed myself. I took a lot of AP courses for the purpose of I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get into a good college and further my education. So I really put a lot of work in on my schoolwork. I'm really proud of that, and it has gotten me to where I am today. So
if you were to tell a high schooler that might be listening today, what kind of advice would you give them about pushing yourself and working hard? Because I know in the school that I taught at, there are a lot of academic pressures. There's also a lot of sports pressures, but it sounds like you put on some pressure of your own. Mm-hmm. Talk about that a little bit.
I think there were times when I probably could have been a little easier on myself because, I'm was the type of student where you get a B and you're like, oh my gosh, you're failing. Give yourself some grace. But I think what really helped me is looking in the long term. And I know it's easy to look at short term, like, hey, I don't want to do this right now. I got better plans. But I think I really looked outwards, and this is what is going to help me build my life and become successful and do what I really want to do as a career.
Yeah, I think you're driven in the right direction. Mm-hmm. After high school, you would attend the University of Wisconsin Madison. What was the lure? What was the pull? UW-Madison.
I don't know if anyone's familiar with Manitowoc, but there's about 35,000 people, relatively small. Everyone knows each other. My biggest motivator was get out, expose myself to other people and meet new people. And that is something that I think was tough for me originally, moving to Madison. But once you get used to it, I'm so grateful that I went there and got to experience everything I did.
I think of Manitowoc, and I've got a good friend of mine that went to Lincoln back in the late 80s and actually had a gal on that went to Ron Colley that also graduated in the late 80s. And I think of blue collar people that live in Manitowoc. And then, like you said, you wanted to get out of Manitowoc. You knew what that was like. You knew everybody there. And then you come to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's like a melting pot. Mm-hmm. You got people from the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast, the South, and other countries.
International, yeah.
Internationally. So, yeah, it's a melting pot. And you get exposed to all kinds of different people and things and ideas. And I think it's good. In your bio that you sent me way back a couple of months ago, during your junior year, you had an internship with UW, University of Wisconsin, Missing in Action project. And because I had two grandpa and a great uncle that were in World War II, and also a great uncle that was in Korea, and another uncle that was in Vietnam. They all were fortunate enough to go and then come back. Some people don't come back and either lose their life or, they just don't come back. And I thought that sounded interesting in the work. Tell us about that.
It was an internship for my criminal justice certificate or minor. And the project's mission is to help locate the remains of soldiers from past wars that have been missing in action, and to help bring that closure to their families and their loved ones. So I did a lot of the background research on individuals that were assigned to me. And although I'm not doing a lot of the direct work of actually, going over there, that does happen, but I still, contributed to that work by getting the foundation of these individuals and their life stories together.
Did you ever have somebody that you worked on or helped find during your time there? Because I know it's a process. You may have started that when you were a junior, which would be 2 years ago now, or about 3 years ago. It still could be going on, but have you heard of anybody that you worked for that was found? Did anybody get identified?
I was only there for the one semester. I know they had completed a mission beforehand successfully pretty recently before I started, of bringing remains home. But if there has been anything else, I have no idea.
Well, hopefully someday they do give you some recognition for helping that, because I think that would be kind of cool playing a role in that. Mm-hmm. We're going to go back in time now and talk about why you're on the show today. And this is the story that you shared with me over lunch during a conference, and I thought was heart-wrenching, tragic, and then how you have survived and have been thriving, and you're still going to continue to do that. But you graduated from high school, you went to college at a very, very tough institution, tough university. You're in a graduate program now, and you're doing all of this despite something that happened. Early in your life, your dad is struggling with prescription pills and alcohol addiction, which would then lead to what you're going to talk about today. What did that look like from your point of view?
I didn't really know the extent of things until after my dad's death, because my parents did a really great job at shielding me from those experiences, which I'm thankful for. But a lot of these things I did not find out until after my dad was gone. I mean, in that way, I guess it could be a little trickier because I can't talk to him about it.
In 2015 then, you're just starting your 8th grade year. You're 13 years old and something happens. And you're very honest about this part of your life. That's what brings you on today. But I'm just going to let you tell the listeners about what happened. Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it was September of my 8th grade year, like you said, just started school, and it's just like any other day, regular day, my grandpa was planning to pick me up from school that day, so, I'm waiting outside, looking for his car, and of course I'm like, ugh, like, can't wait to go home, like, how regular 8th graders are.
Do your homework.
Yeah, and I find my grandpa, get into the car, and I'm like, oh, hi. And he's like, how was school? I was like, good. What'd you learn? I don't know. And
typical grandpa questions.
Yeah, and he said he has something to tell me. And I said, well, what? And he said, well, let me pull over. And I'm like, for what? Just tell me. And he pulls over. We're still super close to school.
Did you sense anything at this time? Anything start creeping in there?
No, I think it was just all so quick that I was just kind of like, well, what is it? What do you have to say? And so he just looks at me and he says, your dad is dead. And I did not say anything. Tears. That's the first thing, is tears. And I felt like I wasn't even on the planet for a second because everything just kind of, nothing else mattered besides, what the heck did I just hear? So that was that, and we drove then to my house, and we got there, and my grandma was already there, which is, her son is my dad, mm-hmm. And she was already there talking to the ambulance and the police, and she was just distraught, because come to find out, she was the one who found him by carbon monoxide poisoning in the garage, in the car, and at this point, I haven't heard anything. All I know is my dad's dead. I don't know. I'm just kind of thrust into this. And I'm not really sure exactly what all went down at that time when we were at my house. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just a blur. But I do remember then going back to my grandparents' house with them as I'm consoling, my grandma, who just lost her son, kind of taking on probably a role that I did not deserve to take on as a 13-year-old who also just lost her dad. And at this point, no one has told my mom. And I guess rewind a bit, 2 to 3 months after or before this happened, my parents got a divorce. And it wasn't finalized yet, but they were separated, living in different homes. So I was told that my mom did not know yet after I've known for probably an hour or two. So I call her at work, and Dad's dead. And she drops everything and comes over there. And that's another thing that I think is also a bit of a blur for me. I just remember, I don't think I necessarily let myself feel anything or process anything. I think it was very, your dad's dead, okay, moving on. And I took that week off of school. We had his funeral, which was, again, I feel like I didn't really have time to process anything. I was just kind of thrown into it. And then I went back to school, and I'm very grateful. I had the school guidance counselor at the time. She was wonderful, very supportive, and, the classes I was in, the students wrote me cards, sorry for your loss, and it was nice to have that support. I think the thing I was most nervous about going back to school is, oh my gosh, I don't want the attention on me. Like, everyone knows what happened. Like, don't look at me. Like, I don't want to be the center of attention, which it wasn't. People were respectful. They knew what happened, but no one asked me about anything unless I wanted to talk about it. So, yeah, and now here we are.
So I'm gonna be the role of somebody listening that may have a question for you but can't. So I'm going to try to ask it for them. So if somebody did approach you and say, hey, I'm sorry to hear about your dad passing away. What was your kind of response to that? How did you acknowledge that?
I think it was, oh, it's fine, thanks. Like, I'm still to this day I don't want sympathy or pity or attention. So I'm still just kind of very like, oh, it's okay, thanks. Like, I don't really want to get into it unless it's someone, that I'm close with, or in this circumstance where there's a purpose and I can help others.
I also like the fact that I think you'll probably learn this as you start going through your counseling and your therapy things. There's probably a part of your body that went into safe mode. You see it on computers, and when things are getting overworked and overstressed and over anxious and whatever, your body probably went into a little bit of safe mode at that particular time and gave you that sense of, we're just going to kind of keep her here and keep her balanced so that we are in protection mode until she gets an opportunity to grieve on her own or with somebody. Was there a point after this, within a week or month, 2 years, where you actually started to be able to sit down and say, okay, my dad is gone now. Now I'm going to just let it all out and cry?
I think it was maybe a month or two after the fact. I think I did that exact thing, actually, in my, one night trying to fall asleep before school, and I think that is exactly when it hit me. My dad is gone. And I just cried, I think, like, actually truly by myself on my own time cried for the first time since everything happened.
Was it a pressure release moment? And tell our listeners how you felt after that.
I think it was the first step in the whole grieving process, but I don't think the pressure was really released. I think it was a really slow process that happened over time, because suicide is such a complex situation. You also tend to have a bit of anger, if I'm being honest. You are a little angry, like, why would you do that? And I think in that moment you think, well, that was really selfish. And it actually was my junior year of college that I took a class about suicide. I think learning from different perspectives about, it's not so much about I'm being selfish, like, can't do this, I don't want to be your dad. I think it's more of, for me, it was, wow, I feel bad because my dad truly, truly thought there was no other option besides ending his own life, which, of course, there was other options, but someone who needed that help so badly. And, I think it took me over years to get to these certain points.
But you're here today to say that after, as I try to do the math in my head, probably about 8 years, and then has time healed, like they do say, does time heal wounds? I
think the wound itself, I don't think, no, because you're always going to remember what happened, and, you're going to miss that person. But what I think time does heal is the way you cope with it, accept it, and take that piece with you and move on with your life with that person that you accept is no longer here. I think a lot about it is just accepting and growing, because you can't abandon yourself. You still need to do what you need to do for yourself.
Well, we're going to get into a little bit about the things that have allowed you to survive this situation, and then how you're thriving, because I think you are thriving. I know thriving for a lot of people is abstract. You might say, well, I don't feel like I'm thriving. I still feel like I'm struggling. From the outside, me looking at you and meeting you, I think you're thriving, and you're still going to continue on that path. It could go faster than other people. It could go slower, but I think you're going to come out in the end really well. Because our listeners want to hear how this turns out and what you did in the face of such adversity, I need to talk about our sponsor one more time, and we're going to get to segment 2. So Buck and Honeys has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honeys. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He is a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. In 2015, Brinn Holschbach's dad takes his own life. She's left with a void in her life, and as a result, she has some things she now has to cope with. In segment 2, you'll hear how Brinn has been able to survive and thrive. Please stay tuned. Don't change that dial. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We'll be right back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. With some help, Brinn Holschbach gets some coping strategies to deal with life growing up. Brinn is here today to share her story about losing a parent to suicide and what strategies she used to cope and hopefully help other children and young adults who might be in a similar situation get the help that they need to survive and thrive just like she did. So segment 2, since the show has a mental health component to it, what was your mental health like after your dad passed away? Mental health, things like anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, anger, you talked a little bit about. What was your mental health like?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was very, I don't know how to put this. I don't think that I fully grasped what had happened and actually properly reacted to it until 3-4 years later. I think I was such in that mode where you're just, that happened, go, move on. You're fine.
I've had some guests come on and they say that when they were young, they pressed on just like you did. They moved on. They went to school. Really, truly, what should a young person feel like? We don't know. I mean, you went through it. You're still having a little bit of trouble understanding kind of what happened, and you're still figuring those things out. And it might take more than going on about 8 or 9 years. Your thoughts were, were you feeling some anxiety? Yeah, how so?
Yeah, in terms of mental health, from 8th grade year when this happened up until my junior year of high school, I don't remember anything significant, but it was just kind of all of a sudden I started having feelings of what now I know is anxiety, but I started getting panic attacks a lot. For anyone who has had a panic attack, you know what that feeling is because you truly think I'm going to die because I'm having a heart attack. And, I thought something was wrong with me because why do I feel like this? Like, do I have an actual physical health issue? I think as these things started happening and a lot of panic attacks, I don't want to leave the house because I don't want to go to the store and get a panic attack in public. I don't want to go to work and get one in public because I think for me immediately it was right away that tightness in the chest. And then your throat starts to close up and then you can't breathe and you really think like I need to go to the hospital. So that's what I felt right away. It kind of just all happened at once my junior year of high school.
Did you ever go to the hospital?
No, I did not, because I think knowing me, how I am, I'm, oh my gosh, I have this symptom, Googling it, what is it? And over time I realized it was anxiety and it was all mental and in my head. And I know that, anxiety disorders can manifest physically for some. But I think for what I experienced, a lot of it was all in my head.
You end up using a coping skill to help deal with some of the feelings you were going through, and your grandma plays a little bit of a indirect role with that. And you said that you kind of took the role of caretaker for her. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about your grandma.
My grandma and I, or my grandparents, that set of grandparents and I have been close my whole entire life. Before I was in school, they are the ones who babysat me and watched me during the days when my parents were at work. And, my grandpa he still to this day is not retired, and he's in his 80s as a lawyer. Yeah, we were very, very close, and my grandma and I particularly, she's the one who would take all me and my friends out to, Blue Harbor and Sheboygan for weekends for fun. She took us shopping a lot. It was really fun. And then by the time that this anxiety started happening for me, as time went on, I realized I need to tell myself this is in my head. I need to distract myself. I realized that because it was not a physical ailment, that I need to do something so I do not think about what I'm feeling, and then it just kind of is a snowball effect. So when I would get this, I was able to start recognizing, hey, a panic attack is coming on. I need to do something about it. And so I would actually call my grandma, and all I would have to say is just talk to me. And just, what'd you do today? How was work? How was school? What are you up to? And that in itself would kind of ease my mind and bring me out of that heightened, anxious state and calm me a lot. Again, I'm not really sure why exactly, but that really worked for me.
As I'm sitting here, because I suffered a couple of panic attacks, that when you were talking about them and the symptoms, and then you started talking about them, I could feel myself tensing up a little bit. And then once you said, Grandma, just talk to me, start asking me about my day or how school went, I felt my shoulders go from up to down. And just sitting here listening to you talk was a little therapeutic for me. But it is something that works, that you just need to distract your mind. And you told yourself, and you did the thing that I've told, or some guests have said not to do. Do not be a Google doctor. And because you can find all kinds of bad things on there, things that can cause more anxiety. But you found out, and you hit the right place, landed on the right internet website that said, distract yourself. And Grandma asking you those questions, I think, was a great distraction. You and your mom also developed a strong bond during this time. Talk a little bit about that.
After my dad died, my mom had moved out of my childhood home, and the house was sold. So we lived just in a little duplex together, just the two of us and our cat at the time, Wally, who was with us for years.
Wally.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I don't know if it was a contribution of my dad dying and I was growing up, but it really started to shift from parent authority figure to this is my best friend. I think even I saw my mom loosen up a little bit and be more happy in her own skin after the divorce with my dad and being separated from him. I felt like she was, I don't want to speak for her, but what I saw was truly able to be her in her best form, do things for her to make herself happy, and of course her and I together because I was her child. Yeah, over the years we just got super, super close, especially just living in that house. Just her and I together was a different experience, and then she ended up buying a house and we moved in there. I just see her now as my number one, my best
Your bestie.
Friend. Yeah, my bestie.
I see so many people your age, and then certainly younger now because of me doing work in the high school for as long as I did. It's nice to see when kids can post those things about a parent or both parents, that they all make that shift from leaning and needing a parent to then becoming somebody that they can confide in and talk to and talk about their deepest and darkest feelings. And how many people talk about their parents just like that they're my, my number one, my best friend since day one. And it sounds like you and your mom have that. That is so cool. Your junior year, you get a diagnosis. These panic attacks and these things were occurring. And I asked you, did you ever have to go because of a panic attack? But you must have went and saw somebody about this. Was it during a physical? Was it during a normal checkup? Or did you decide, I think I need to go and talk to somebody?
That's funny because I have no idea. I know I went to my primary doctor, but I don't know if it was a regular checkup or if I made an appointment like that to go in and talk about this. But eventually I was diagnosed my junior year with generalized anxiety disorder, and I was put on antidepressants, which now, I guess, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have done that because I think it can be easy to rely on that then. And the only reason I say that is because a year later I had to get my wisdom teeth out and went there to the oral surgeon already. They put me on the first round of anesthesia, and they had to actually stop and wake me up because my heart rate was too low. So after that, couldn't get my teeth out. They referred me to a cardiologist to figure out what was going on, and I guess some antidepressants can do that. So they thought, hey, let's take her off the medicine and see if her heart gets better. That was a terrible time because then I got panic attacks all over again, and just for them to find out that it was not the antidepressants. So I eventually got to go back on them, and I was prescribed something else because I did have a small heart rhythm, but so I think I maybe would have went about things slightly different if I wasn't maybe 17 years old. Did you end up having the wisdom teeth out then? Nope. Still have them in to this day. Still have a lot of wisdom. Did your mental, after the diagnosis, did that change things for you mentally at all? I think, in some cases, putting labels on things can be difficult, but I think in my case it helped me to know, hey, this is what I have. And I know I am not my whole diagnosis, but at least it helps me, for someone who's very anxious and likes to know things, that I have this to refer to and, talk to someone else who has it and, hey, what do you experience? And I think it helps that way. I was going to say, I think when you're doing your search and why do I feel a racing heart? Is my pulse feel like it's or my heart's pounding out of my chest? It could be this. It could be 15 things, but when now it's generalized anxiety disorder, it narrows your focus down. And what do I need to do to avoid some anxiety, which leads to panic? What can I do to stop it? You already had the coping skill. It sounds like you could sense when they came on and you could shut them down. I couldn't do that. And they would spin out of control, and I just could not control them myself. But I'm glad you were able to figure that out as a 17-year-old and recognize them when they came on and you could do something. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, or pencils and jot some things down. Here are Brinn's 5 suggestions that have allowed her to survive and thrive after the passing of a parent, and then some of the things that happen that go along having to deal with the grief and loss. Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in. Did you play softball? No. No. Do you know how to hit a softball? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, I'm going to toss these. I'm going to roll these in like a kickball. Okay, I can do that. I'm going to roll these in kickball style, and I'm going to say, go ahead and kick that. Normally I say, go ahead and hit that, but we'll go ahead and kick that. Here's what Brinn shared with me that have allowed her to survive and thrive. Number 1, lean on your support system and allow yourself to be helped. And I'm going to say, let's kick these for 2 minutes. Go ahead, number 1. So like I said before, a big part of me I wish I've gotten better, but I like to not ask for help, and I don't like the attention being on me, so I was really big on like, oh no, I'm fine, I don't need help. But I think what I would tell my younger self or anyone else in a similar situation is let yourself be helped, and if people are there and who you can trust and you love and they care about you, then let them help you, because you can't really go through anything alone. It's awesome to have someone by your side.
And when you're going somewhere, it's nice to have a map or whatever. And in this case, somebody who's walked that same path before you, if they step in to help you, they maybe know a little bit. So yeah, allow yourself to be helped. Number 2, be in touch with your feelings, recognize what you are experiencing, and allow yourself to feel. Go ahead and kick that.
Yeah, so another thing is I wish I would have let myself grieve and feel things a little more right after my dad died. And, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do that, and maybe that's just how I am. In terms of the panic attacks as well, too, that's how I learned to cope with them, is recognizing I feel this, and I understand I feel this, but it's all in my head, and we're going to get through this. You're fine. I would literally tell myself, you are fine. And I think that's where that comes from for me, too, is just feel it.
I like it from the standpoint of some of the things I've shared with my own anxiety, that self-talk of it's in your head, you're going to get through this, and for me at least, breathe. Do some breathing. Number 3, don't worry about everyone else's grief. You have your own to worry about and the path that you are on. Go ahead and kick that.
Yeah, so like I talked about with my grandma, a big role of mine was being a caretaker. And, I was the only thing that my grandma had left of my dad, so that placed a huge burden on me. And it really wasn't until pretty recently that I realized, not my job. I can be here as, his daughter, but that is not my job, and I have myself to take care of, and that is what is most important.
Number 4, honor your parents' memory in a way that's comfortable. Go ahead and kick that.
Yeah, so over the years, we have gone out for dinner on my dad's birthday or the date of his death just to celebrate his life. But I think sometimes that can be uncomfortable, especially the years right after, because it's just kind of awkward. So don't force yourself into anything you're not comfortable with, and you can celebrate whoever that person is you lost in your own way, however that is that makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I had a guest on here that lost a mom to some rare cancer, and almost immediately, and they decided to have a golf outing and invite some friends and just hit the little white ball around and get some people, and it's turned into a big, huge golf outing, and that they give some money back too. But I've heard it in a big atmosphere like that, and then all the way down to dropping some flowers off at the grave site, or in your case also going out for dinner. But yeah, I think you need time to process things, and when it's comfortable, there's no set time. Do it right away or do it 10 years down the line. But I think you would say do something. And number 5, healing doesn't mean forgetting. You still have love for that lost individual. Build a future for yourself and cope in a healthy way. Go ahead and kick that.
Some particular people in my life have not grown since that very moment they found out that my dad died, and it's really hindered the way they live their life, and I didn't want to do that, and I don't want anyone else to do that, because you have so much going for yourself. Like I said, you need to take care of yourself, and you can take that memory of your loved one, and like I do, that's my dad still. I love him. We have good times, and I wish he was still here, of course, but I need to move on with my life as well and accomplish what I'm here to accomplish.
Get the stuff done you need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're doing a great job of that, by the way.
Thank you.
What a great episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you thrived after such an experience is inspiring. Inspiring enough that you and I met for the first time, and then we had lunch, and then now you're here in my condo doing this podcast is it's really inspiring. Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when something like a death of a parent at a young age occurs. Mm-hmm. Despite what has happened over your young life, you have survived and are continuing to thrive. Our call to action, Brinn Holschbach just shared her story and what it's like to grow up when the death of a parent occurs. She leaned on family and got help when anxiety took over her life. Here are Brinn's 5 suggestions that helped her to survive and thrive. Number 1, lean on your support system and allow yourself to be helped. Number 2, be in touch with your feelings, recognize what you're experiencing, and allow yourself to feel. Number 3, don't worry about everyone else's grief. You have your own to worry about and the path you are on. Number 4, honor your parents' memory in a way that's comfortable. And number 5, healing doesn't mean forgetting. You still have a love for the lost individual. Build a future for yourself and cope in a healthy way. As we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, are there any final thoughts, Brinn?
I just want to thank every single person who's been there to help me throughout the years, and especially to my mom, my very best friend and my biggest supporter through every single thing.
And I'm glad that you came on. I mean, those are my final thoughts. And it took a little while for you to get here, but sometimes good things happen for those who wait. Yeah. And I can't wait to follow your career, and hopefully I will never need your expertise. But I know that if somebody is wherever you happen to be, that person will get a referral to you because of the things and experiences you have, and you're kind of the people first kind of person, but you also know that you have to, you're 1A and everybody else is 1B. You got a huge heart. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's Remote Studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.